let's go ahead and get started then, since Nicole is recording. So my name is Matt Dunigan. I'm a senior coordinator at the University of California, Riverside. And Josh, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
And I am Joshua Dietrich. I am the competitive sports coordinator at Kent State University.
So we are going to be y'all's moderators for the day. We're going to be talking about NIRSA Club basketball with the NIRSA Championship Series. The person that's going to be, I got to give a huge shout out to the person at NIRSA headquarters, Nicole Jackson. She's been assisting us with everything. She's going to be the person that's going to be letting people in. She's going to be the person that's going to be muting people, kicking people out. I don't think with the group that we have, we're going to have to worry about that. All the same guidelines, like all of our other roundtables, are the same. Nothing has changed, literally. If we're going to go through a presentation really quick, just talk about NIRSA Championship Series for those people that might be new, that don't know how club basketball works. And then also, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. The other person that's not talking, so at this point, Josh is going to be the person that's going to be fielding those questions. He's going to give me a good stop sign, and then he's going to start talking, and we're going to address them. So feel free to open up the chat, have conversations, friendly banner. We're just here to kind of spread education and kind of talk to y'all and see what the overall feeling about this is. So without further ado, that's introductions. All right, so like I said, roundtable agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about what NIRSA Club basketball is and the conferences that we have. Josh is going to be actually talking about registration, division play, timeline, how to register, when are conference dues supposed to happen, what do those conference dues cover, how are we going to be formatting our division of play, host sites. We're going to talk about division hosts versus regional tournaments, because I think that was one of the things that got brought up in one of our surveys that we did, was just the overall, what does it mean to be a division host and host these divisional games versus hosting a regional tournament. And then also, I think a majority of us have had questions about COVID-19 game plan, I guess you could say. And then at the end, we're going to have just an open overall Q&A session. All right, so NIRSA Club basketball as a conference. So we do have round robin division play for teams in the spring. We don't start rolling out these games until probably like around late January, February, depending on the conference and when we start rolling out all of our divisions. So it's designed for club teams just to sign up and play. The scheduling officials and home court space for contests are a thing of the past. We attempt to do all that through the host, and we'll cover that in a little bit later. And then it provides opportunities for clubs to actually have an opportunity to go to the national conference in two ways, either by winning their division or going to a regional tournament and winning outright at the regional tournament, kind of like the old school way to get to the national tournament. But teams are actually afforded more opportunities to participate at the national level through divisional play and through the regional tournament. So club basketball conference timeline. So February through October is typically our registration opening when we are trying to get teams into different conferences, attempting to figure out where our conference are going to lie. Obviously, the West Coast was one of the most challenging ones. We had a team or a conference worth of 7 in Southern California, and we're trying to split those up. Trying to figure out where the best conference can play and the teams can play. Also with like the biggest thing that we try to accomplish is that teams aren't traveling more than 5 hours to participate in a game or in a divisional play. So we try to make sure that that's one of those things that we try to accomplish. When 4 teams within travel distance, those are typically our divisions. But between myself and Josh, we are the co-chairs, and with our work team, we recruit the host schools to host these divisional game days. Typically, it's 1 or 2 days. And then we also set up kind of a club payment plan with NIRSA headquarters. Josh is going to talk a lot about that because we've had a lot of questions about, well, how do I pay? When do I pay? What do I need to get involved? Josh is going to cover a lot of that stuff in the next couple slides. So then once the division contest dates are selected, we send all the information out to the teams, confirm, and then we just make sure that everyone can show up to the site to play those games. And then the club play at least 2 designated host sites for the divisional play, and that kind of provides us the seating for the round robins that come out. And then obviously when we look at that, if you're number 1 in your division, you get to go to the national tournament. Teams can compete in a NIRSA regional tournament of their choice. And so that's kind of one of the things that's also included in your registration dues, that you get to go participate at a regional tournament. So if you do win the division, obviously you're already on your route to the national tournament. But if you do go to a regional tournament, I think we had like 1 or 2 teams that did this. They also went to a regional tournament and actually won. We kind of work out those details on the back end. So division champions are crowned from the host site results. And then obviously, like I said, the division champions earn paid registration into the NIRSA National Basketball Championships. So conference registration. So like I said, the registration period has already started. It's going to go through all the way through October. So gives a little bit more time for people to kind of understand what's going on. Only require verbal commitment, no contracts to sign up front. That's kind of ran through myself and Josh this year. Nicole also is one of our liaisons with NIRSA headquarters. And so once we get a verbal commitment, we start to pump out a lot of more information to these clubs to kind of give them a good foundation of understanding of who's going to be in their conference. They can start looking at travel, how they're going to travel to those host sites, where the best host site's going to be for all these teams. And then creating your team on IMLeaves, we can do that 1 or 2 ways. We either will send you an invite so that when you get into the division, you can start adding people to your roster, actually having people sign liability forms and making sure that they're clear to play. And then payment not due until the end of the registration period. So you can do 1 lump sum of $975. Josh will talk about the total and everything. Or you can do 3 installments if that works better. I think that a lot of people are going to be looking at these 3 installments and possibly doing it just in the climate that we're in with the budgets on campus and things like that. I think that's it, Josh.
Okay, so you're going to need to prompt me on the text. Okay, so as Matt alluded to a moment ago, our registration fee is $975 for the season. Understand that that is a flat fee, 100%. There is no forfeit bond. There is no any additional costs. With this is just a straight $975. And what teams get with this $975 is, as we mentioned earlier, is you get a paid entry into a regional tournament of your choice. As you're well aware, we have anywhere from 10 to 12 regional tournaments across the country. Shoot, Wisconsin this past year went down to Region 4 for theirs. We had a couple other schools travel across the country for those, and that's the tournament that they selected. As soon as your team decides what regional they want to go to, the regional host site will invoice NIRSA for that entry fee. So other than travel, there is no entry fee additional out of your pocket for that one regional. As you can see, as the next bullet, officials are all covered, are completely covered for all divisional games. I know it's a struggle, especially with my clubs, trying to get the costs down of what officials cost for even just random out-of-season games with local schools. So with the NIRSA Club Basketball Conference, the host sites take care of the officials. And all you have to do is physically show up and play. We also have medical personnel on site for all division games at the host site. That can be either an athletic trainer or somebody with a like skill set to handle any injuries that may occur throughout the day or days of competition at those respective host sites. We do not have team insurance. So basically everybody has to have their own individual insurance to participate in the NIRSA Club Basketball Conference. And then I'll get into host stuff here momentarily, but we do provide liability insurance for all of our host sites. So that way they are covered whenever everybody comes to participate. The schedule. So Matt, myself, and our work team, we actually will create the schedule for every single division. Send it out, make sure the teams know where they're going, when they're playing, what court they're on, directions to the site, all the other fun stuff. Basically, all you have to do is schedule all of your logistics for travel, and if you have to stay overnight and things like that, depending on where you're going for these host sites, all you have to do is that and suit up and play every single day you have a game. It's pretty simple. You don't have to juggle to try to figure out, hey, I'm playing this team and we got to play on this day or anything else. And then, as you can see, as well as the last one, as we mentioned it already, our division champions from NIRSA Club Basketball will get a paid entry into the NIRSA National Championship for basketball. So division play, as Matt alluded to, once we get to 8 teams, we try to break that division down into 2 4-team divisions, just because it is a lot of games and logistics to try to get a host site with this, just to try to get everybody to understand is interesting. So it's more of, it is round robin play. So basically, if we have a 4-team division, let's say I'm going to use the South. I'm going to use Texas, for example. We had a host site at Texas A&M last year. We had a 4-team division. One team, of course, is already at home, and then the other 3 join them. Everybody will play everybody once on that given day, then head home, and then we'll do it again at another host site on an upcoming weekend, whatever's scheduled in that. So if you have 5 teams, then it turns into a 2-day affair. So you're going to, so 2 games and 2 games. You have 6 teams, we're going to turn it into a 3-day affair, 3 games and 2 games, one way or the other. The biggest thing is we will not make a team play more than 3 games in a day, and you will not play the same team more than once in a weekend. So it's not like you're playing the same team 3 times in a row. Let's say somebody gets drubbed in game 1. Nobody wants to play games 2 and 3 because they're just not physically up for it. They already know probably how it's going to turn out. This way, you play a brand new team every single game on a given weekend. And then we also build in scheduled breaks in between. If we can make it happen and we have the logistics for it, we'll try to give at least an hour, hour 15 in between games. Sometimes we just want to roll right through. Teams don't want to have that break, so they'll request, hey, can we just roll right in, 10-minute break, 15-minute break, stretch, water break, and then roll on. But that's the flexibility of the host site. But I mean, like I said, it's pretty helpful to the teams to give them a lot of leeway and flexibility with all of this. If they know they can't travel at certain times, I know Matt and I were late nights on certain weekends for host sites. We were changing the schedule around just because teams either had logistical issues, things like that, got a late start, or impending weather. We had a winter weather storm early in the season for our Midwest women's division. Nasty snowstorm hit us, so we had to make adjustments on that. But big thing is we're very, very flexible. So just as a quick prompt to everybody that's currently on the call, if you do have questions or something pops in your mind that you want us to go over again, please put it in the group chat. We will touch on that here momentarily. So jumping into conference hosts. Basically, to be a host, we will ask the schools that are currently in that division first. Okay, so it's kind of like a pecking order. So we want to be able to help out some of those teams if they want to kind of limit the travel of their schools and things like that, to kind of help them out. From a management perspective, we'll reach out to those schools first. If we can't get 2 hosts out of the pool of that division, we will reach out to other schools. So really, to host, we require a minimum of 2 basketball courts that are open for the amount of days that we would need for that division size. If it's a 4-team division, we only need it for 1 day, generally pretty simple. If it's a 5-team division, we're going to need at least 2 days just because we have to play 4 games, so we're going to do 2 and 2. Going to have that nice even split for everybody. If you have more courts, that generally helps things out a lot. I know out west, I believe we had 3 on certain days with the 7 teams, so that made scheduling a lot easier for us on our end, as well as the hosts, to get everything in without making it a marathon day. As well as having the courts to host, being able to secure either athletic trainers or a like medal coverage for the contest. I know that we had student staff ready to go that had a higher level than basic first aid and CPR, that they could handle everything. Understanding that we're not asking these medical personnel to wrap our players, things like that, but it's more of being on site to handle if we have a medical emergency without any delay. And then basically providing officials and a table crew. So 3-person mechanics, It can be your Student Officials Association. It can be some of your better officials that you plan on sending to regionals. It could be recruiting from other local schools if you have a nice amount of other colleges and universities next door, reaching out to them, getting some of their regional ready officials to come officiate these games. And then all we ask is at least one person on the table to run the book and the scoreboard for our teams. So a big question with all of this is, Josh, do I have to pay for all of this out of our budget and out of our pocket for all of these different things? The answer is yes, but NIRSA gives a nice, healthy amount of money per team that comes to your host site. So with the $975, as I mentioned, the host sites get liability insurance coverage sent to them prior to the weekend that they are hosting. Like I said, all of the work, all of the logistics is basically mapped out by our work team. So really all you have to do is get the courts ready, mop them, set chairs up, table up, get the scoreboard ready to go, and have staff there waiting for teams to check in. And then basically as the weekend unfolds, let's say you're hosting 4 teams coming in, you're going to walk away with an $800 payday from NIRSA to offset all of your costs and potentially make a small profit on the top of that if you did your due diligence. I know we hosted here at Kent State for the Women's Midwest Conference. We made a profit on the weekend. I know some of the others. I know SFA made a profit. A&M made a profit. Like I said, pretty much every single host made a nice healthy profit after everything's all said and done. So that's you paying for the officials, that's you paying for if you have any staff, or you can get volunteers. So it really depends how you do it. I know I put some of the money towards our officials development budget for the upcoming year, and then some of it went into my intramural budget. So it just really depends how you want to move that money around. But like I said, NIRSA gives you $200 a team. So if you have 6 teams that show up, you're going to make $1,200 for the weekend to host. So that can go towards whatever you want it to go towards. Matt, go ahead.
Sorry, trying to find my unmute button. So NIRSA Club Conference hosts versus NIRSA Regional Tournaments. So you can kind of see that the conference hosts only 1 or 2 days. You get paid for $200 per team. So this kind of just contrasting both of the conference host style versus regional tournament. You get a game schedule created for you. Just follow all the teams, and the biggest thing that we had issues with was just the eligibility, but that's all ran through our work team. Each host site also, I don't think Josh has mentioned this, but typically the host site will have like 1 or 2 people from our work team that are going to be the liaison for the entire weekend. So you have a point of contact if you were to run into any eligibility issues, and all you have to do is kind of communicate with that person or that liaison, and they'll work through those participants that to deem if they are eligible or not. The other thing for the conference host is you do have to obtain officials. They can be from your intramural program, or they can be from the local high school, but I will say that the local high school associations typically charge a little bit more. Round robin play, like we said it, and no additional staff is required. So like we don't take a lot of stats just yet. We do take some stats, but not like as in depth at the regional tournament level. Like contrast to the regional tournament, we do have weekend requirements. So all logistics and planning are on the regional site. Require outside staff to facilitate, so committees and officials, volunteers from NIRSA, and kind of go through that whole process of gathering volunteers. And then also you do pool play and bracket play. And typically those days, depending on the amount of teams that you get, you could be hosting anywhere between 12 to 16 teams or 24 teams at the regional tournament. The conference host is just 1 or 2 days of just hosting those games. I think that we had a question. Will this PowerPoint be available? Yeah, James, we can make this PowerPoint available. And also the recording will be also put online, I think. I'm not sure if Nicole, you can talk more about that. All right, Josh, you want to take this over, or you want me to go through it?
I'll take it if you don't mind. So that's fine.
All right, cool. That's perfect.
Okay, so I think the biggest thing that we're all trying to understand and get answers to is basically this slide right here. So understand where we are currently sitting at this point in time at the end of June in 2020. Matt and I and our work team and the championship series are planning ahead as if we will have a 2021 spring season for the club conference. Okay, that is us being prepared and doing our due diligence and also being optimistic. Okay, so also understanding that, hey, we could get new information within the next 30 days and we're all shut down again. So, so all of this is very fluid with the situation. But as I said, we're being prepared and being optimistic, hence why our deadline isn't until late October. Payment isn't due till late October. At that point in time, we will have a much better idea within the Champ Series, but then also at all of your respective schools, what you are allowed to do, what you're restricted on doing, where certain things are. So by that time, our decision to play will be decided by one, team registration numbers. So basically, if it comes across to where most of the country is not allowed to travel for any sport competition other than NCAA, even if they're allowed, come springtime, we're probably not going to have a season. Okay. We know some schools are going to be allowed, some schools aren't. Those decisions have kind of been made now, but can be changed at a moment's notice. The second one is really, it's huge, is ability for schools and facilities to host. So if we can't have anybody that's able to host, we can't have games. And that goes for all NGBs across the country. If nobody's allowed to come in and travel to your university to compete in any club sport, we're probably not going to have a club sports season during that season. Then the next one is basically overall decisions made by the championship series. So this is Nicole, this is Valerie, and this is the NIRSA executive team making this decision if something would need to be canceled for FY21 for whatever reason, for all of our championship series activities. And then we're also going to be leaning on what the NCAA decides, because their season starts in early November. Same for all of the high school seasons across the country. Those vary from late October into early December start times. So a lot of that is still completely up in the air. We don't even know if we're going to have high school football and fall sports right now. So a lot of those decisions are going to help us facilitate what we plan to do in the spring based off how the response is across the country. And then the other one is local state public health restrictions. So while other schools and other states have been actively having sports, we've been doing baseball. I've been umpiring baseball the last 3 weekends. There's other places across the country that aren't allowed to do anything yet. So it's basically, we are at the mercy of those restrictions for the health and safety and well-being of everybody else. And then just to reiterate, understanding that we have time. So we're not asking you to sign anything. We're not asking you to sell the farm right now with so many unknowns. Our registration, like I said, is due at the end of October. So there's a lot of time for you to facilitate, work out with your directors, your student affairs or athletic upper administration, figure out if you're even allowed to travel, what your budgets may look like, things like that. I know our budgets have been slashed left and right here. So I get it. I understand your pain in some of these. The big thing is there is no upfront cost or commitments. I think that's the biggest selling point for all of this, and understanding that we are very flexible. I think we had a couple teams join in early December last year because we were trying to fill out a 4-team division in certain regions of the country. We made that happen. So understanding we're flexible and we can try to make things work out if things end up going south for your school and your team. We understand. We'll make the necessary adjustments on our end. And then refunds, of course, this is a big point, is those will occur on a case-by-case basis. But the best part is, like I said, we're not asking for money until really, really late in the game. So at that point, we'll have a better idea whether we're playing or not. So then nobody's out anything at that point. basically all of our money goes to our host sites, goes to the national tournaments, goes to the regional tournaments, everything else. Nobody's making a profit off of this league. Matt and I are getting paid absolutely a grand total of $0 for all of this support and everything else. And then basically in the end, understanding that your peers and colleagues are organizing and operating this. So any one of you could be on the work team next year. Any one of you could be the chair in the next couple of years of this work team. So it's about just understanding where we all are and taking care of each other. Okay, we do have a question from Daniel. What happens if a school pays for the league fee, but then is shut down in 2021 due to a second spike and are told they cannot resume club activities for the remainder of the year? Will schools be refunded or given a credit for the school year? So as I said, we'll take everything is going to be done on a case-by-case basis. More often than not, you will more than likely get a refund back. But like I said, everything's done on a case-by-case basis. If we played part of the season, you probably won't get the whole thing back. If you haven't played any of the season, like I said, there's a lot of things going in there, but I can tell you right now that we will not keep all of your money. I can make that honest statement there. Just because, like I said, oh, go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was just going to say the next thing is just having the open line of communication. Daniel is letting us know. Myself and Josh, the reason why we wanted to get in front of this and kind of put this information out there for everyone was so that way we can build this connection to you all. And we're going to be setting up updates and kind of reaching out to you all and saying, hey, what's going on in your area, especially with those teams that we had last year in our conferences. We're going to be putting out a lot of information and saying, hey, where are you? Because here in California, we're not allowed to do anything, where Josh is still officiating baseball games. And so it just really depends on what's going on in your area. And we're going to try to take that information. And we have done the last, I think it was a week and a half ago, we sat on our summit, and we actually came out with a different levels of strategic plan for our club basketball. So if this happens, then it's going to have a ripple effect. And myself, Josh, and the executive team, and as well as all the other chairs, have already started to look at specifically at the regional level and within club sports for like basketball, soccer, and tennis. And so we do have a contingency plan that is fluid, still working on it, adding things to the pile, but we are all on the same page as, hey, look, we need to make sure that we're doing the same thing for everyone else. And so, Greg, to answer your question about the Creighton's ending the fall semester before Thanksgiving, do you think we'll be able to work around the different academic calendars? Yeah, we are going to attempt to look at that, and that's going to be absolutely the final piece. We're trying to wait, Greg, to see Greg, Crystal, and Jarrell, just to kind of see what's going on within that division of play for each team. And if each team is going to be ending their quarter or semester by the end of Thanksgiving, then we're going to look to see, obviously, our games don't start till January or February. So we kind of have to look at when those teams are going to come back, when they're going to be prepared to play, and then kind of go from there and then make a decision.
So to kind of go a little bit more in depth with Greg's question is, I'm in the same boat. We're going remote as of Thanksgiving break here at Kent State as well. So that would affect both my men's and women's team as well. But as Matt alluded to, we won't even have the game schedules to you until late December, early January anyway. So, I mean, it's not going to really affect anything in terms of playing in the fall, because there is no fall for the conference. If y'all want to schedule games against schools that are your neighbors, things like that, you are more than welcome to do that on your own. But basically, in terms of flexibility with academic calendars, I can say this from last year. I have a big master spreadsheet that I created for last year. I know when every single school in the conference has their spring break. I know when every single school in the conference starts their academic calendar in the spring. Because last year we had some HBCUs that joined the conference. Their semesters, or actually quarters, for example, started later in January. Some of them didn't start back until the last week of January. We started at Kent State 2 weeks prior to that. I know some schools started 4 weeks prior to that. So we are aware. Matt and I will have all that information mapped out to where if schools can start and everybody's in session and we can start games in mid-January for that conference and that division, we're probably going to start games then. If we can't start it until the last week of January or maybe early February, we will start games then for that division respectively, understanding that all of these host sites that we had over the course of last season all did not host on the same weekend. I think I hosted by myself one weekend. I think there was one weekend where we had 4 of them going at once because it just happened to be in a like weekend for 4 regions of the country. And then, like I said, I take spring breaks into account when we made the schedule last year, knowing that probably the weekend leading up to and the weekend at the end, probably nobody at your school wants to play basketball on those weekends. I get it. I understand it. And then also the regional tournaments in your respective regions, that weekend will also try to be avoided as well. So understand there is a lot of logistics and other things that we look at when we create the schedule each spring to kind of work around and make the best situation for everybody.
So the next question that we had was from fake Brian Smith or Haraga at UCLA is, do we have any safety nets for teams that have a no-show? This is something that Josh and I talked about actually like installing a forfeit fee. Obviously, we haven't gotten to the point to make a decision about whether we're going to charge teams or how we're going to penalize those teams. Right now, we had subdivisions that didn't experience this at all. And then we had subdivisions that had a team every week or every time that they came out was, hey, we can only play one day. And it's just more so the communication piece to answer your question, Harag. And that will be some of the decisions that we are actually going to be making with our work teams and our work team chairs as we get into our meetings coming into the summer. And then we'll pump out that information as we go. So Adam, would it be allowed for a school to host multiple weekends of games? Say there's a 4-team division and only one of those teams are able to host, but is willing to host multiple. Yeah, so that was actually, Adam, to answer your question, myself and Harag were the 2 schools out west. We had a 7-team league out here in Southern California. And I was gonna host 2 different weekends and sandwich the regional tournament in between. But then what we ended up deciding was that we were gonna host at UCLA one weekend and then host here at UCR the next weekend. And so the teams were kind of, actually they enjoyed that because they saw each other for 3 weekends in a row, and it was all kind of in a span of about a month. But they played at UCLA, they played at UCR, and then they went to the regional tournament at Grand Canyon in Phoenix. And so, but yes, you are able to host multiple times. We're not going to restrict you from hosting, especially now that there's only maybe only one host school that's willing to host, because one of the other things that we have to kind of take into account is with this whole COVID-19 thing is that if we have a school that's hosting, there might be other schools that don't allow participants to come onto campus to participate. We've seen some, and we've gotten some feedback that some schools are okay to participate with their student community, but they're not going to allow other student communities to come like across the pond or something like that, or across the freeway to play. So it just really depends on who's going to host. Are they able to host other schools, and then go from there? And that's kind of one of the things that myself and the work team and Josh are going to be kind of attempting to make that connection with you all. So those host sites that we have a protocol and to kind of follow, and that's something that we're also going to be hammering out with NIRSA headquarters, is putting those protocols out that the regional tournaments are going to be following, as well as our club sites. Does that answer your question, Adam?
And I think to add in a little bit more on Adam's question, and then what Matt just said, is this year we're going to have to be even more flexible on our end as the administrators of the conference, just because there is still a lot of unknowns. If we're allowed to play, you know what, it might only be certain regions of the country that can have a league this year. We don't know. We don't know how this is going to play out. I think if one school is willing to host and all 4 teams, and that's all we have, then we'll play at that host site twice, just to get it in. So, I mean, if the teams are willing to make that travel and the schools are willing to host and make it happen, I don't see why we wouldn't go that route. But I do think that we would try to spread the wealth to the other schools, give them an opportunity. But if they pass at it, of course, we would definitely take that into consideration.
Hey, Nicole, can we put up our poll question that we almost forgot about?
So you might have seen this one earlier, about a month and a half ago during another meeting, but this is just to kind of get an idea of where your school might be with its decision-making processes for at least the fall.
as those numbers come in, it's kind of what we anticipated. Josh, with 73% coming in with, I expect that COVID-19 will have some impact on our team's ability to attend NIRSA events.
So I think another question to bring up, as more questions will start to trickle in here, hopefully, is what regions of the country are we looking to have teams in? So I think that's, I mean, I can see some of you, I know some of you, some schools are much more remote than other schools in terms of where they are geographically. So we understand that. So our biggest thing is we ask for a new division to be created. We need 4 teams to make it happen. Okay, so that way you get a pure round robin, everybody plays everybody. One weekend plays everybody again. You get 6 league games and you get your regional tournament on top of that. And all of your officials paid for and all the other fun stuff that comes with it too. So I mean, in terms of, I'm going to use Adam as kind of my example from last year. He's at Colorado School of the Mines, and they wanted to play, but there were no other schools within 6 hours. That's kind of the window, is 6 hours. If we can try to get that window even smaller when we create divisions, we try to do so, because we understand travel from an administrative perspective in our shoes is a big deal when our teams decide to head out on cross-country road trips. All of our alarm bells are going off every time the phone rings, texts come across, things like that. So our big thing with this conference is, one, we're limiting you to 3 travel weekends throughout the entire season outside of nationals, which immediately saves us a lot of headaches. But then it also helps all those schools as well. So if they're only traveling 3 times, we try not to make it too crazy. Last year, we did have to expand and make it 8 hours in the Midwest, to where we had the University of Wisconsin hosted one weekend for the Women's Midwest, and then I hosted at Kent State another weekend. So we had an 8-hour journey for our respective teams to the other location. But hopefully in the coming year, we can kind of split that down the middle and have 2 divisions. So it's more of, if there's an interest from your school, I highly suggest reaching out to your neighbors within a 4, 5, 6 hour drive. And if you can grab them and bring them along, and let them know, or show them this PowerPoint, or give them this recording, or whatever. Like I said, we get 4 teams, we can make it happen. And this is moving forward. So this isn't just for this year, this is for next year, when hopefully everything is back to whatever the new normal might be, and we're all playing sports at a normal level, in a normal situation. We'll welcome all those teams as well. So, but I think that was an important piece of the puzzle to cover. Last year we had a women's division in Texas and a big women's division in the Midwest. And then on the men's side, we had our newly created 7-team division out in the West, pretty much all of California. I think we had 2 Northern California schools, Matt, I believe. We had a Texas division. Well, actually we had 2. So we split Texas and we had 2 divisions, 2 4 teams. We had an East and a West that took care of like LSU, Louisiana, and then a couple of the Eastern Texas schools. And then we had another division in Texas as well. We had a Mid-Atlantic division that took care of Maryland, Virginia area as well. I'm forgetting another division off the top of my head, but we are looking. I believe there was interest in Florida schools to make a men's league in Florida. If we can get something more in the Midwest, like further into Missouri and Kansas and stuff like that, even in Colorado or Arizona, try to making that happen. We can definitely. Oh, as Matt said.
So this is our IM Leagues page, and it's open to the public. You all can go and see which divisions that we had. And then Nicole, we'll talk about this offline, but maybe there's a possibility that we can make the last league fall 2019, I think, available, so that way they can kind of see. But these are the divisions for the men's that we have, and then obviously we do have like the women's division that we're willing to expand. So if you do fit into some of these areas, just you can communicate with myself or Josh. to kind of say, hey, what are the teams looking like in my area? And we can give you a list of teams that we had from last year.
And we did have some additional teams that didn't pay for a regional or a national, because that's what we did with Adam's team. We gave them a discounted rate to go to regionals and potentially nationals if it would have happened in the spring. But we did have a handful of teams scattered across the country that expressed interest. We just didn't have enough schools to make it happen. So hopefully those schools are still interested, and we can get a couple others to jump on board, and we can make a division happen.
All right. I think that we have about 15 more minutes. So Greg, what makes NIRSA Club different from the other guys? I think that's the piece my teams are missing. Greg, I mean, we attempt to not compare ourselves to the other entities, as I like to say, just because we pride ourselves on the student experience and how and the services that we're providing to them, and being flexible and working with them, so that way at the end of the day, it's like Josh said, we're not making money off it. NIRSA is not making any money off of club basketball. It's not money driven. It is experience and having those club participants being able to participate within an environment that is healthy for them and their club to be successful. And it's a little bit cheaper. I think the $975 is something that it encompasses everything that you need for the entire year. And we do all the legwork. Myself, Josh, and the work team put a lot of time into making these leagues go, and the communication and things like that. And then even if the worst were to come, Greg, it's and everyone on the call, it's something that's easier to handle than that $975 and compared to the other leagues that they might run into. Because one of the other things that we found out was that some club teams are just playing adult leagues within their city, and they're playing like double this. So it's kind of one of those things. Chris, since it is a flat rate, there may be divisions of 4 to play 6 regular games plus regionals. Yeah, so they get 12. Is a way to balance it out. Yeah, Chris, to answer your question, we attempt to balance it out as much, but then it just really depends on what division they're in and how many teams they get. That was also one of the things that got brought up, Josh, I think, was that we had some teams that were playing like, X amount of games prior to going to the regional tournament, plus all the regional tournament games. And we try to balance that out as much as possible. But one of the things that we can't account for is teams not showing up. That was one of the things that we ran into a lot, was just kind of balancing out those numbers. And Greg, I hope that I answered your question about like what the difference is about that between us and the competitors. I think it's just a lot easier because we get to work with people that we actually know and might have an established relationship with, where you can shoot me a text message, you can call me, you can call Josh, you can send us email, and our response time is a lot quicker. And we kind of have a vision for what we want to do. And if worst case scenario, things hit the fan like they've been doing all 2020, then we're going to work together to work for the community and make sure that we're coming out of it in a substantial way that it's benefiting not only us, and we're not like sweating about this stuff, and for y'all and your clubs to not think that you're going to be losing money by just signing up or just saying that you want to commit to this.
Chris, did we answer your question, or do you want to look, or are you looking for a little bit more?
It just seems kind of random that some teams are going to get twice as many games for the same money.
So understand that we are at the mercy of how many teams in whatever region. So, I mean, we can't control if there's 5 teams in the Midwest and 4 teams in the South. In the end, somebody's going to get a couple more games just for how it plays out, just because of a pure round robin. So just to kind of give you an idea, out West, even though we had 7 teams, we did not have a pure round robin play through twice because, one, we didn't have the facility nor the staff to handle, I believe it was 28 games necessary on one weekend, and then to do that twice was, I mean, outside of a national tournament and maybe specific regionals, nobody can handle that. So there was an adjusted schedule for them. I think you guys played what, 9 games, Matt? I think it was, you played everybody once, and then I think you had 1 or 2. I don't think they played 3, so it might have just been 8 total games even for the 7-team division.
Right.
Things like that. So, I mean, in the end, the games work themselves out. If we can break up divisions and we have a nice cluster, we try to make the division sizes as even as possible so everybody's getting equity in terms of the games. But in the end, like I said, we're at the mercy of our regions. Let's say we blow up in the Northeast, up your way at Providence, and we get all the Northeast teams, and we have 12 teams. Well, guess what? It might be 4 or 3 4-team divisions. It could be 2 6-team divisions. It just really depends on kind of how the spring breaks fall and everything else. Because like I said, a lot of factors come in to certain areas if we need to split divisions up based off of what works best for each school to be able to facilitate and travel and make that commitment without too many bumps in the road, because we know that they happen. All of us understand that. There's bumps in the road all the time, every single season, that something comes up. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit better.
Got it. Yeah, I get it. Yep. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. I think any other questions, like burning questions that y'all have? I think this has been a good discussion. I think I've gotten a lot of information from y'all. Is there anything else that's like maybe that you'd like to see or something to come out of the NIRSA Championship Series that will help you all make this decision or kind of take it back to these club sports presidents and stuff like that?
I think the biggest thing before we break is more of, since it doesn't look like anybody has any more questions at this time, is more of, if something does pop in your head after this call is done, please blow up my email, Matt's email, even Nicole's email. We will be more than happy to answer any and all questions. We check our emails religiously. And then I think last but not least is spread it around to our colleagues and all of your friends in your area, things like that. Make them at least aware that there's another option on the table. Like I said, we're not trying to do anything or sway you one way or the other, but it's more of giving your team an option, trying to figure out budget-wise what's financially sound for your school and institution at this time, travel-wise, expectations, the work your clubs want to put into the season, things like that. All of those are on a school-by-school basis. So it's more of what fits best for your school, and if you're wanting to join us and make your team part of the Champ Series and the Club Basketball Conference, we'll be more than welcome to have you. And even set up a meeting with you and your club presidents. I had that a couple times last year as well. Conference call with everybody, just so that way they get everything laid out on the table for them as well. So all you got to do is ask. Awesome. We will send an email out to everybody letting them know where the presentation and things like that will be located. Nicole has all of your information. Other than that, y'all have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great summer.